My name is Jihan Park, and I am one of the physics teachers at Lehman High School. And Abby, if you want to introduce yourself really quick.
So I'm Abby Reyes, and I also teach physics at Lehman.
And we created a blended unit, a blended learning unit for our most recent long unit. And long, we're considering anything that's over 2 weeks. And we created a blended learning unit because we were kind of learning some lessons from our first few weeks of school in terms of what kids need for a long unit, what they're not really engaging with, how to reach all of our asynchronous kids as well as our synchronous kids and our in-person learners, and how to better utilize this block class time. We have 90-minute blocks, 90-minute rolling block. And so we can see the kids every other day for an hour and a half. And so figuring out ways to kind of self-pace the material and make it more digestible, and then also make it more visually readable. And so this is just a preview of our units. I'm going to talk about a little bit about why we did this and what our specific goals were in terms of this structure. And then Abby's going to talk about the actual structure and what all the different assignments and appointment scheduling and all that looks like. So again, our why was we were doing, for the first couple of weeks of school, right, we're all kind of learning things, and we were kind of trying to do things like we did in the spring, because some of those things seemed to work for a while, but those were, we'd already built relationships with those kids. And so that's a totally different game. And so we were finding that a lot of our tips and tricks we learned in the spring of last year weren't really working. We had pretty low engagement, and in terms of retaining the engagement of a student from the beginning of the unit to the end, we were definitely seeing kids kind of fall off. And then by the time we got to things like assessments, like quizzes and exams, we were seeing kids were really not doing very well, but they were also not leading up to those assessments. They were not taking the opportunity to ask for tutorials. They were not asking questions. They were not attending class. They were not emailing us or messaging us. And so we realized that we're going to have to build in those structures. We're going to have to build in those self-assessment checkpoints where we ask the student to stop and take a beat and think about how comfortable they are with the material. How comfortable are they with the math? Do they need to stop and ask their teacher some questions? And so the way that we structured this unit was we built in checkpoints where the students where there was literally a question that said, how did you feel about that now that you've checked your answers on that set of practice? I feel great. I didn't miss any. I'm going to move on. I feel okay. I'm going to ask my teacher about a couple of these. I did not do well at all on that. I'm going to stop here and ask my teacher some questions. So we build in those self-assessment checkpoints and those self-assessment milestones within to the practices and within the assignments. And then we structured it so that students had kind of a window of time, because from the first 9 weeks, we gave them unlimited time to do everything, right? So for the first 9 weeks, everything was due on the very last day. And so we didn't really want to expect them to suddenly be adherent to hard deadlines right away, because transitioning out of this mindset of, oh, I've got enough time to do it, I can kind of wait, to suddenly things are due after 1 day or after 2 days, we didn't think was going to be very productive for them or for us. We were probably going to get a lot of missing assignments again. And so we gave them sort of a window of time and a suggested completion date for these things to stay on pace. But for those students that might need a day or two, or maybe they have to prioritize another class that day, we gave them sort of a grace period around those due dates, with some final hard due dates that everybody was adherent to, but still gives them plenty of time to either work ahead, or if they want, or if they need to, kind of put it off for 1 or 2 days, and then give them sort of that autonomy in terms of, do you want to get ahead in this unit, or do you want to do things by the time that they're actually due, or do you want to kind of get ahead for exit tickets number 1 and 2, and then maybe you have to put off number 3, but that's okay because you're ahead now in the unit. You can do number 3 after a few days. Maybe you have to catch up on some pre-cal homework in the meantime, right? So we're kind of building in that flexibility and allowing them and reinforcing that soft skill of time management and prioritization.
Student agency is a key pillar in effective blended learning instructional models. Ms. Park and Ms. Reyes have identified lack of both student engagement and ownership of their learning process. Their lesson design adds routines and tools to help students increase their agency. Although they have included hard due dates, Park and Reyes have given students some flexibility in controlling their pace through the content. Rather than letting students have until the end of the unit to turn everything in, suggested due dates along with explicit teaching on time management will help students learn good habits that increase their success as independent learners that will follow them into college, career, and military.
We made an instructional video for them and for the students and for their parents that we sent out ahead of time before we even started the unit, because another thing that we were noticing was that we weren't getting a lot of parent engagement either, and parents seemed to be confused about the structure. And then accessing the materials. So accessing the materials seemed to be an issue because every student has 7 different teachers, and they all have 7 different Schoology layouts. And what we were finding is that when we had units, our first unit was also really long. When we had units that were more than 2 weeks long, so more than 10 class periods worth or something like that, the assignments, it was really hard for the students to stay organized in terms of how to find all their assignments. And so that's why we made this entire unit just one embedded page so they could see what all is due, what are the dates, how should I time this out, how long is each assignment going to take me. And then all of these links link directly to the assignment, whether that's a Schoology assignment or a Schoology assessment or a Google assignment, it links directly to them. So when you assign assessments, you can actually copy that direct link and put it into, here's where you go for your exit ticket. So we were increasing the accessibility as well. We were really explicit in terms of our grading for this unit. We gave that to them ahead of time. And then the main goal for this unit was to get face-to-face time with our students, especially those ones that are asynchronous. So something that we did not make optional was short update appointments after each exit ticket, after each phase of this unit. And so when they finish exit ticket number 1, they fill out a form that shoots information to us to schedule an update appointment. Those were anywhere from 2 minutes if they didn't miss anything and they don't have any questions and they got everything right on their activities and their exit tickets, to 15 minutes for those students that really missed the main point. Maybe they didn't get any questions right on their exit ticket and they needed more time. This significantly increased the amount of face time that we got with our students that have been virtual and inconsistently coming to Zoom, and especially for the students that were virtual and totally asynchronous.
By requiring the exit ticket appointments, Ms. Park and Ms. Reyes have the opportunity to make personal connections and build relationships with students. This is especially critical for the success of virtual students and contributes to their social and emotional well-being.
And so we built in these tutorial times or these update appointments into our class time. So then we were utilizing our 90 minutes much more effectively because we were meeting with 15 students individually in 90 minutes instead of only 2 or 3 students that wanted to speak up and ask questions. So we kind of forced the kids to get some face time with us, and that really increased our engagement across our classes. So with that basic why we have this structure, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Abby. She's going to talk about what the structure looks like.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. It's going to be the same one. Okay, so we had this whole page, and how this is broken up is the students, this whole first section, their activity 1, exit ticket 1 section, all of this is unlocked for them. So there's nothing that's keeping them from progressing through this part here. So activity 1, they complete. We gave them an approximate time, so 30 minutes for this one. We had video demos. This was more of an intro to what this unit was going to look like, things we were going to be covering. And then afterwards, when they felt comfortable with that activity, they'd progress to exit ticket 1. And again, this links directly to their assessment. So they just click it when they're ready to take it, and it takes them right to the Schoology assessment itself. After they finish that, their exit ticket update form looks something like this. And this is where that built-in assessment of learning comes in. So it's really simple, fill in, drop down stuff. How did you feel about this exit ticket? And did you ask for help while you did the activity portion of this part? So after they filled that out, that went to a spreadsheet that looked like this for us. So we would get their feedback, and this is the student version. So we would get their feedback and we would schedule an appointment after we would have that graded. They can't see this score column. So the student side of it, they only see when their appointment is. And then we have kind of set what it means when there's a strike through, what it means when we have things highlighted, if they miss something. And the student version of this looks like this. So again, they don't see anybody's scores. They just see when their appointment is, and their names are in this column, just have this blacked out currently. But on the side of theirs, they have what the information means. So strike through means feedback is complete. They made their appointment for this. Highlighting means they missed that appointment, and so they should know that their appointment's going to roll over to the next class period. And again, we're just utilizing that 90 minutes to fill. And actually, we could get to, I think the most I saw at one point was probably almost 20 students in one class. So we could utilize that time pretty efficiently. Then let's look back. So once their feedback appointment is complete and they have a link to that spreadsheet to be checking when their appointment is, once that's complete, their next exit ticket unlocks. Now, while they're waiting for their feedback appointment, they can work on the activity. So for example, once they took this exit ticket 1, they could move on to activity 2. And this activity was more content-based. So it was an ed puzzle with me going through the notes with them, working examples, and they would complete the pear deck with that. And then again, approximate time here. So while they're waiting for us to call them up, whether that's through Zoom or if they're in person, they're working on this. Once that feedback appointment happens, we can go in and unlock that assessment for them. So then exit ticket 2 would be unlocked. And the same process would follow all the way through. So again, with exit ticket 3, same process, they would be waiting on the feedback appointment for exit ticket 2. Then once they've done their exit ticket 3 appointment, that's the last one here, they're to work on this exam review. So these were Google form review questions and then a Google Slides review. So the answers are built into this. So this is more of a self-assessment preparation for the exam itself. So this was for them to complete what they thought they needed to go over again, what kind of problems they needed to look at. And once they completed this here, then their final exam for this unit would unlock. We would unlock it. And then they have a set date here. Potentially they could take it earlier, but there was a window that it was had to be taken by. So December 1st, we had by for this one. And that was the basic overview of this. So.
One thing I wanted to add really quick, that activity 3. So as the kids move from exit ticket 1 to 3 and activity 1 to 3, you can see that the time of completion increases. This activity 3 is 90 minutes, but it's meant to be spread over the course of 2 class periods. And so we give them at least double the amount of time that we think is the time required to complete the activity. And also built into these activities were differentiation. And so if it's a Google form activity, they would go through and they would read an article. One example is they would read an article. And then at the end of reading the article, there's a question that says, I understood this entire article, so they could click that one, or I understood some of this article, or I didn't understand any of this article. And depending on what they choose, it would shoot them down a different pathway for the rest of the activity. Mm-hmm. And so we had differentiation built in to these assignments so that kids whose maybe reading level or math level was not as high as other ones were really completing different levels of problems throughout this assignment, but it's all built into one Google form and it all sends to one spreadsheet that we can look at for grades. So if you have any questions, again, my name is Jihan Park. I'm at Lehman, and this is Abby Reyes, and she's at Lehman. Feel free to send us an email. We're more than happy to share more details about this or how we made the assignments. Some of the assignments are in Schoology, some of them are Google, and we kind of tried to integrate the two. And yeah, we'd be happy to entertain any questions. So let us know. Thanks.